going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today's video going to be going over the trades we have taken today inside the Discord, as well as the game plan going into tomorrow. So this is what we end up looking like on the puts right off open. So you can see we ended up gapping up quite a bit, and my chart just goofed up. We ended up gapping up quite a bit, and we ended up losing the 50 here on the 30-minute. You can see this massive candle off open. Ended up losing the 50. I still wasn't the most bullish in the world, just because when we look at the higher time frames, we were still sitting at like the 2-hour 50 up in here. It didn't, it was wicking a bit. It still could have propped back up quickly if it wanted to. And then we also had the 4-hour, so pretty massive spots. Kind of, there wasn't clear direction on where we're gonna go. So today was kind of just a weird day. It was a choppier type of day, and we did take a couple trades. So I'm gonna go over that. So the first thing we ended up taking was this call cross. I took this twice, ended up taking a small loss on it twice. So since that 30-minute chart was crossing down, we were losing the 50s a little bit on the higher time frames. Still wasn't super clear that we were gonna just like rip higher, because of those higher time frames, like the 4-hour and the 2-hour still hadn't crossed down yet. So it wasn't the most clear direction, but since we got this cross going, I decided to give it a stab, and you can see what ended up happening here. So we got the cross, obviously, but I ended up taking 2 entries on this. So the first one, I ended up entering at, let's see, what time was this? At 10:09, and I got out at 10:12 because the 50 ended up turning down. And I'll show you guys what I mean by this, and this is where I ended up getting out. So this is what it ended up looking like right here. So the 50 ended up obviously turning down right here. You can see pointed down, 10 SMA, didn't even cross yet. And when charts happen like this is where I'm getting out. There's no point to continue to hold this because it doesn't look good. So as soon as that 50 turned down, I was out of this for a small loss, probably like 10 points. And this was also on half size. Today was a day that I was risking less, just because 2 days before FOMC, we don't, it's kind of like uncertain on where we're going at the moment. Nothing was clear on the higher time frames. Still didn't cross down yet. So yeah, I was later sized the entire day today, and yeah, we probably took like a 10-point loss on that half size. Then ended up getting back in this because it actually did end up shaping up pretty nice. It looked pretty good. I think I entered a couple minutes later. I think at 10. Let's see, what time was this? 10:14 or 10:16. I was back in this, and look, this is what it ended up looking like. It looked really good. I mean, this is a very clean looking cross. 100% a valid entry here. We had the 10 crossing the 50. 50's pointed up. It looks good. 100%, solid trade to take, and it just didn't end up working out. It was chopping around quite a bit. I think I ended up closing this right around like 15-20 points, and I did add a little bit more size to this than my on the initial entry, but still wasn't like just given the type of day it was 2 days before FOMC, wasn't sized up like on Friday when the direction was super clear. We had trend going, everything looked really good on Friday. Today wasn't the clearest in the world, so I did go a bit lighter, and yeah, that was a loss we ended up taking today on the 0DT cross on the calls. So we ended up taking those 2. Rest of the day, no other crosses, very choppy, but I did take a short on ES. So it was just off of a fib level, and this is what we ended up getting. So I don't have the fibs drawn on this chart here because I was still trading the March contracts, and I didn't realize that I didn't have the fibs drawn. Or I think they might be drawn on this one, actually. The chart that we ended up having on ES, because I did end up switching it, but I was still trading the March contracts because of the volume on them. So this is the short we ended up taking. So we ended up closing back below. You can see the 67.60 level, and we got a retest of it. So I ended up getting back in this, which honestly, you could have got back in this. You could have taken it right up in here. It did break above, but if you have that 11-point stop, you would have never been stopped on this trade, and it actually did end up playing out to, yeah, you would have hit your 25 points on that and probably stopped that break even there. So I ended up taking the retest of it right up in here. We did pretty much top ticket, dropped like 15, but it didn't end up getting to that 25 point again. So I did end up moving my stop to break even. This was a super light trade. I had 2 MES on this trade, very light. Just given how the day was going and what we're looking like, I just wasn't super confident in everything. So went lighter size, and that was a break even trade. So that's what we ended up doing today. It was very sloppy of a day. You could see price was just consolidating the entire day. We had like a news candle here into the end of the day. I was already off the charts by then. I didn't even see that in real time, but yeah, that's what we ended up looking like going into tomorrow. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we got, the same type of action, but with us closing with how we did, this was the range we were in. So you guys know with that 30-minute chart crossing down on the 30-minute, we established a new range. So with this, if we go back here, puts ended up crossing negative here. 10's below the 50, 50 ended up turning down. Where were we when that ended up happening? We were between the 67.60 and 66.90. So this is the new neutral range. And given we're at the top of this range, is there still a possibility this ends up dropping tomorrow and we see like a retest of this 30-minute 50? I would not be surprised if that did end up happening, like with the gap down or something like that, and we pop up in the 50 there, and we hit like maybe the 2 hours actually ends up holding, and then the 4 hour props back above. We would need a pretty significant move to do that, but I wouldn't like count it out just because this is the top of the neutral range. If we end up breaking above this tomorrow, and staying above it, then we'll be in buy the dip mode, and we're gonna be changing the fibs. I actually looked, to see what we end up looking like if we do change the fibs, and the levels are not much different than what they are right now. Obviously, the 100%, 0%ers can be flipped, but it's not that much different because given this low is getting changed to this low, it's not that big of a difference. So when it comes to gameplay tomorrow, 0 DT cross on puts, if we remain below this fib, would be a solid trade to take. If we do come down to this fib, I want to see what we look like on the higher time frames. If they look like they're actually, going to end up holding, then I'm probably not going to take that dip buy. It just wouldn't make sense. If we break above this fib, okay, you could take a chance and grab a long off of it. I'm more so going to be looking for a 0 DT cross tomorrow. When we're in the neutral range, I'm not really too, interested in taking a fib trade. That's just kind of how I go about doing it. Best thing to do, sit out, wait for a break at the range, and then either take a 0 DT cross or wait for the range to break and find another fib trade from there. So if we break above this fib, this is where we change the levels. I know we broke above it right here in the close. I'm not counting that as a break though, because one, it was off of like a news candle. Two, we end up closing back below the next two candles. So I would need to see another break above that tomorrow for us to be considered out of this range. And then if we do break that, you end up changing the fibs from let's see here, the 1 hour chart is always weird because that is not the correct level. So this fib up in here, 0% is going to get dragged down to this low, and the 100% gets moved back up to this high. So you flip the 0%, 100%, and this new low is going to be your 0% mark. Very simple. That's how you do it. If we remain within this range, or even if we break below this fib, fibs stay the same. There's no change to them. So that's how you go about doing the fibs. That's kind of the game plan going into tomorrow. Not going to be forcing anything. It's going to be probably another lighter size day. FOMC on Wednesday, so up in that air on where we're going from here on out. So that's all I got. Drop a like, drop a sub, join the course if you want to learn. I'm out. Peace.